I deal with a lot of A-list celebrities, movie stars, actors, stuff like that. And one of the hardest things to do to get well is being wealthy or famous. It's hard for them to do because they
Imagine going from playing music at the legendary Abbey Road Studios to earning a PhD from Oxford only to end up homeless on the streets of Manchester, England. That's exactly what happened to Dr. Robb Kelly before he found his way to recovery.
Dr. Kelly has helped thousands of others find their way to recovery. Dr. Kelly's story reminds us that addiction doesn't discriminate, but more importantly, that recovery is possible no matter how far that we have fallen. Dr. Robb Kelly.
I'm outside a liquor store. It's snowing. I have a vest on, shorts, pair of flip-flops, and I'm sweating profusely. I'm also shaking and going into DTs, which means if I don't get to hospital or a drink in probably the next 30 minutes, I'm gonna.
What was happening in your life the day before you ended up homeless?
Nobody's ever asked that question.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for considering donating to my podcast. When I started this page just a few months ago, I did not think I would get to this place that I'm at right now, but I cannot thank you all enough for even considering to donate to my cause. A lot of work goes into these things, whether that be getting guests, getting the expensive equipment, the editing. Oh my God, the editing takes me forever and I'm terrible at it. So it takes me even longer. But if you're here, thank you. Whatever you can afford, I would so appreciate it. It would mean the world to me. So if you want to hear these recovery stories, keep coming, then please consider donating. It would mean just the absolute, the world to me. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being a part of my journey. I really don't know what else to say besides thank you. And be on the lookout for many, many more episodes coming soon. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Willpower Podcast. Today, I'm so excited because I have a very, very special guest, but let me give you a brief intro. So today's guest has one of the most fascinating journeys I've ever encountered in the recovery world. Imagine going from playing music at the legendary Abbey Road Studios to earning a PhD from Oxford, only to end up homeless on the streets of Manchester, England. That's exactly what happened to Dr. Robb Kelly before he found his way to recovery and transformed into one of the most unconventional and effective addiction experts in the field. Known as the Gordon Ramsay of addiction for his direct, no-nonsense approach, Dr. Kelly has helped thousands of others find their way to recovery. But what really caught my attention was his philosophy that the problem is not our drinking, it's our thinking. Dr. Kelly's story reminds us that addiction doesn't discriminate, but more importantly, that recovery is possible no matter how far that we have fallen. So, hi, Dr. Robb. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, well, it's great to be here, man. Can't wait. It's going to be a good one, guys.
It's going to be a good one.
Good.
It's going to be a good one. Just judging by the glasses, I'm calling it already. So, Dr. Robb, off air, I just gave you a brief introduction about who I was, in my background. But my first question to you was, someone who has gone through a liver and kidney transplant, and I drank myself to 2 weeks left of life. I'm fascinated by rock bottoms. So what has happened in your life? Actually, sorry, let me rephrase. What was happening in your life the day before you ended up homeless?
Oh, wow. I've been doing podcasts for 10 years. I don't know how long, man. Nobody's ever asked that question.
I told you I've been following you for a while, so I came prepared for this one because you're you're a very inspiring guy, and I just really wanted to get to the meat and bones of the conversation right away.
Well, I was in my parents' house. Everything had gone wrong, and the first call obviously is the parents. Go back to the home to the parents. I lasted about 2 days there because the rule was no drink. So I was in my old bedroom and I was sneaking beer in from the first day I went in. It might have been 2 or 3 days, I'm not sure. Maybe the second day. And on the third day, my parents found out, and my dad come upstairs 10, 11 o'clock at night time. It's pouring down with rain. It's pitch black, like in Manchester. It's cold. And he just said, this is what he said to me. Well, you've got to go, son. Now, he was a quiet man. He was a shy guy. You couldn't really give him a gift or anything for his birthday. You had to give it to mom, and he would open it without anybody being around. So very few words. And that was it. He walked me downstairs. He gave me, I think it was £10, which is probably $100 today. And he closed the door. And I had a little bag of clothes and this £10 and it was pouring down. That was it. I'm like, oh my God. So um, I took the last tram train into Manchester because I've seen all the homeless in Manchester. I might as well get in a group. And I got off the train, I sat down and I started to cry. And then I realized that what went wrong. What the hell just went wrong? It was the first time I sat. Never thought I was an alcoholic. Still didn't think I had a problem. I
Mhm.
was just there, and that started my 14 months on the streets, which
So
was
you were on the streets for more over a year.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if truth be told, Will, I was brought up on the projects or Section 8 housing, or that kind of thing. Mum had cleaned other people's houses. Dad worked for the gas corporation. Used to, dig the roads, and so I could fight. I could look after myself, studied all the karates, Shotokan, boxing, all that stuff, bodybuilder. So no one would mess with me. But when I got on the street, the more I drank and the less I ate food, my weight dropped and dropped and dropped until eventually I couldn't really defend myself against bigger guys. And I got my teeth knocked out, got my nose broken 2 or 3 times. It was just crazy. But yeah, I got quite comfortable on the streets, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I don't think I've admitted that anywhere else, but I did. I had my routines. I was drunk all day. I'd beat people up coming out of nightclubs. When they went around the corner for the car or something, I'd knock them out, paste a wallet. Go drinking. But yeah, it was just I thought I'd die in the streets. So that
Yeah,
was
because
it.
I'm thinking about it. I mean, 14 months, and it wasn't like you were. I've listened to a few other interviews you've done, and it's not like you were couch surfing. You were actually living out on the Manchester streets. I think.
Yeah, I was sleeping on the bushes. I was sleeping in trash cans. The big ones outside companies just to keep warm. Yeah, I mean, people say I was homeless, I stayed with this guy. No, they were literally on the streets, like abandoned, abandoned. And that trauma alone from that, my kids were taken off me. I lost a housewife. I lost everything that I had in England was gone. And it was over a period of time, but alcoholics, because of the hypothalamus, we'll get to that later, don't know they have a problem. So when everything bang snatched away, they go, what? And yet people have been suffering around you for years and years and just can't take it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very similar in that, like, in that regard, whereas you're so lost in the addiction itself that you almost prefer to self-sabotage and then be on your own and try to figure it out while the craziness that's going out there in the world that you're living in. You're living in chaos because I feel like, well, I'm speaking from personal place, but yeah, when I was in the throes of the heaviest of my alcohol addiction, I was at a whole self-sabotage, chaotic life, and that was now that I'm sober and I have the clarity of a sober mind, the peace almost is, like, intimidating at times,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
interesting to me. So Dr. Rob, this is something I really wanted to get to early. So the moment outside that liquor store, so I've come across this story. So that moment outside the liquor store, when the shaking stopped, right? From holding that unopened bottle. So the story is, well, actually, you know what, Rob? Why don't you tell the story, Doctor?
So I'm not sure there was homeless now at the time. I think I was, but I'm outside a liquor store. A nice thing about people who run news agents and liquor stores is this guy knew who I was, Pakistani guy. He must have suffered in his family from it because he understood me. He used to let me in at 5 a.m. They're not supposed to serve hard liquor until 10 a.m. But I was outside one morning. It's snowing. I have a vest on, shorts, pair of flip flops, and I'm sweating profusely. I'm also shaking and going into DTs, which means if I don't get to hospital or a drink in probably the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be dead. And I'm shaking and sweating, and I can't really talk properly, and I'm really in a mess, man. And he opens the door, walk in, and for whatever reason, which I think was God to teach me a lesson later to go into what it's about, is I put my £10 on the counter, and he put the bottle on the counter, and for whatever reason, this was my reaction. Oh God. Headache stopped, shake stopped, mood changed, absolutely in a great mood. And I've not even opened the bottle. I just had hold of it. And it's like slow motion. Well, I looked at the bottle, I looked at the shopkeeper, and I looked back at the bottom and went, holy shit, it's not the alcohol. And that was the mind-blowing experience. Now, that didn't stop me drinking and staying homeless, for a long time. But when I got off the streets, I revisited that moment and went, wow, we need to delve more into this. It's not An alcoholic is not someone who drinks too much alcohol. And that really, like, I've got the addictive personality. I'm either all in or I'm all out. There's no middle. Oh, well, I think, no. Somebody asked me today to play basketball. No, well, I've never played. Yeah, but no. That's it. I'm either good or that's it.
Yeah.
So when I threw myself into the work, which people were laughing at and calling me strange and a fake and hurting. Oh, I knew there was something because of the experiences I had on the streets. And I look back now at the time on the streets, at the time of losing my kids. The last thing my daughter said to me was, "Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking," at the age of 3. When I go through all that, now I'm of clear mind. That period was like a semester at Harvard University for me,
Mhm.
because that's 95% of what I teach today. No colleges, nothing. It's just, if you can identify with another human being. I went to see a counselor once and he's like, I said, "You're an alcoholic?" He went, "No." "Drug addict?" "No." "Well, you can't help me." "Oh, I've been to college for like 10 years on addiction." "Yeah, but you don't know what I'm thinking when that hypothalamus clicks in, the survival part of my brain." He said, "Can you explain it?" I said, "Yeah, of course I can, if you don't get offended." He went, "No, I won't get offended. You got a bottle of vodka behind your back and I want it because I need to drink. Would you be surprised if I stabbed you in the face several times, made sure I killed you, and then drank the bottle?" And his reaction was priceless. He would almost call the police on me. You see, you can't teach it if you haven't been there, especially with any kinds of addiction or mental health. 'Cause
Mhm.
you don't know how the brain works and you don't know your reaction when you're in that situation. And we'll get into the neuroscience, which fascinates me.
It does. Yeah,
Even
me as
today,
well.
it's like,
Yeah.
but I was determined that, just to be told, listen, just for your kids, Rob, just stop drinking. And I couldn't.
Yes.
I remember taking a Bible when my daughter's born. I put my hands on the Bible. I swore I couldn't, but I
Mhm.
didn't know I couldn't. I just kept going and going and going and going and going and going. So I come up with a saying on the streets, and that is, the definition of insanity was me not being able to see my own truth. I couldn't see that I was dying. I was killing myself and everyone around me. I couldn't see that.
Isn't that interesting? I was in the same boat. I couldn't see the amount of hurt that I was causing my wife, my family, my mother, my father, brothers, everything. Like, friends, friendships were all suffering. Everything was suffering, and I knew what the issue was, but I was so lost within the addiction itself that I did not know anything else. It was the only way I could function was having vodka right away, first thing in the morning, because the tremor shakes would just be so overwhelming that the bile puking and all that nonsense that goes along with it was so overwhelming that it was all encompassing, all everything in my life. So I got you there. When you said that you got the bottle and then you held it, and then that was that initial release of, oh, it's my thinking. It's not so much the physical components to it. Did that come in that moment, or did you come to that realization further down the line?
And I've come to a relation right at the moment that, hey, it's not the alcohol. So then how can I touch a glass with the alcohol inside it and have a reaction to that as if I was drinking it? That's what intrigued me. It's like, how? So that was forgotten about. I got staying on the street still. And when I got off and started working, I went and revisited that and went, okay, why did that happen? No, I don't know anybody that's been through that. I don't know. So yeah, and the realization later on was, like, we study neuroscience as well. We're psychologists, neuroscientists, behavioral scientists, uh, and we alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism. That's what we come up with. And the same with every other addiction is, it's not the problem, it's the symptom by all means, but it's not the problem. The problem goes way deeper than that. And especially with the neuroscience that we know today, the brain acts in ways that 99% of the people listening to us will not understand. You see, the old way of thinking with addiction and alcoholism is go to treatment for 30 days. Well, when you've got a 4, 5, 6% success rate, then obviously there's something wrong. When you're allowing little Johnny back into your treatment center for the third time, taking a check off him for 30 grand again, there's something wrong. And I determined to change that. And I have changed that.
That's beautiful, Dr. Rob. That's beautiful. Yeah, it's the thought, isn't it? Because I can remember so many memories of going back in time, thinking of when I was driving around, just the feeling of going to the liquor store. The thought. It wasn't even the alcohol that was getting me into trouble at that point. It was the thought that I had that it was okay to drink to alleviate this anxiety, alleviate this feeling of not feeling fulfilled, not living up to my potential, wanting to escape all my issues. That was the thought was always the most important. And when I went the 125 days sober, which was the longest stint I did before I drank myself to the transplant itself, I noticed those 125 days being so difficult because every time the thought came in, it was like an impulse control that I didn't know. I didn't have the tools in the tool shed to come up with like what are the strategies to kind of break these patterns that I'm now using to things like that. Um,
We did our research around that. Everything I say and do, we've researched or trial or tested. So we got 4 guys that were chronic relapses, and we asked them uh, if God forbid and this is the early days, God forbid you should ever relapse, would you call me? And what we'll do, me and a friend is we'll pick you up, we'll take you to the liquor store or drug dealer, we'll pay for it, we'll take you back home. Are you good with that? And they all said, yeah. And eventually, that's what they did. And we monitored, we put them on the heart thing. And we put the brain stickers on. We measured the frequencies, and we got them in the car, and we took them there, and we gave them the money. Went in, they bought the liquor, they got back in the car. We drove them home. They got out and went in. The most intoxicating part of that journey, when the brain was alight and the heartbeat was fast, was the drive to the liquor store.
mhm.
So I knew we were onto something right as soon as we did that trial with people.
Yeah. I for me personally, I was constantly chasing that initial first drink, and I think you were talking about from the neuro biology of it, psychology of it all too. Is that initial first drink when like the acetaldehyde is breaking down the liver enzymes and it's hitting the prefrontal cortex, all that stuff, right? Is that the thing that we're chasing? Because that's what it felt like for me. I was just chasing that initial high, that that decompress of anxiety, alleviating that, and just constantly chasing that until you just get foggier and foggier, and the next thing you know, you just become like a sloppy drunk. And I was always chasing that, and I wonder, like, from your clinical point of view, like, what is that first drink doing to our body that is so alluring?
Alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. Let me just piss some more people off. So with alcoholics, uh, when you tap that first drink, see, people class, he's an alcoholic, she's an alcoholic. It's not about that, guys. It's generational. You can trace it back in your family genes and grandfather stuff like that. So once the real alcoholic takes, and it skips generations, takes that first alcohol, what happens is that release, that feeling is something that you were always searching, even at the age of 9. When I took mine, I never fit in, I never felt good enough, all that stuff. So we take that first drink and it changes instantly. I was on stage in Liverpool, UK with my auntie and uncle. I had a musical family. So at the age of 9, I'm playing bass. And that's when I took my first drink. And all bets were off for me. This was it. It changed my life. Went on the second half. I was like Chuck Berry with a bass guitar. It was just crazy. So what happens is because we've never had that in our system before, we're chasing that first thought pattern. When the prefrontal cortex says, give me an answer, the answer it comes up with was the drink that my uncle gave me. We'll never get that feeling back again because alcohol has never been in our system, but we keep chasing it. And they feel most alcoholics, when they get to the end, we don't drink. We don't drink to feel good. We drink to stay alive.
Yes.
And again, go back to the hypothalamus with that. It's just like it's the biggest killer of human beings uh, against cancer. You could have cancer, lung cancer. You could have everything that you could imagine together. Alcohol and drugs kill more, but it's not reported. How do we know that? Well, we did our studies in Richardson Hospital outside Dallas, where we were allowed to study patients Friday and a Saturday night coming in. 95% of people walked through the doors were intoxicated or were filled with drugs. Out of that 95%, 60% was recorded. Out of the 60%, 3% died. The hospital results said nobody died of alcoholism or addiction. It was a car crash. It was, a chip fire. It was all this stuff, and it's just not being reported. So when you get Like if I ask somebody now, do you know someone's got cancer? No, but my friend does. Do you know somebody has an alcohol or drug problem? Yeah. Everyone knows somebody. And if you don't, it's probably you. That's how rife it is in the world. And yet, the taxes that we collect on it, it's just absolutely crazy. No one's going to stop it. But yeah, it's hideous, man, when you get into the figures and the facts behind this multi-trillion-dollar companies.
That's interesting. You mentioned the family aspect of the biological component to it, because with the literature I've been reading in the past year to year and a half, I feel like a lot of people in research and in clinical studies and things are actually kind of shying away from the biological component. But
Mhm.
for me personally, my father was a huge drinker. His father was a huge drinker. It was always in the home. It almost seemed like once I had that first drink and I was chasing that initial high, and I was doing that for the rest of my life pretty much from the age of 14 to 36 is when I had the transplant. So I wonder, what camp do you fall into? Is there actually a biological component to it, or is it a self-made thing that either stems from childhood trauma or other avenues?
You can't drink yourself into becoming an alcoholic. You either are or you're not. You're either pregnant or you're not. It's not the same as drug addiction. So it's traced back. But what we've got to be careful of is it skips generations. My brother and sister, no problems. But when we get to when we get to dad's dad and his dad, you start hearing sayings like, "Oh, grandfather liked to drink." You don't hear that, "Oh, grandfather's an alcoholic, there's alcoholism in the family," because it's only over the last 15 that I know of years, 10, 15 years that people have come out and go, "Yeah, I have a problem here," because nobody would come forward because it was weak, it was all this crazy stuff. But there are people who abuse alcohol, who love taking it, who absolutely are heavy, heavy drinkers that don't particularly want to stop because of the childhood trauma. They're not alcoholics. They up and they can stop given a sufficient reason. Alcoholics can't stop once they get to a certain point. So when I hear people going, "Oh God, one day I decided not to drink," you were a heavy drinker, man. You abused alcohol, whatever you want to call it, because the real alcoholic, when he gets to a point, he can't stop. And I'll tell you why he can't stop. It's down three parts of the brain differ in alcoholics. This is why we're born this way. I'm allergic to the ethanol in alcohol, number one. Secondly, my hypothalamus, the part of the brain that's the survival part, it tells us in no certain words that you have to drink water and you have to eat food to survive. That's it. It's a normal functioning part of the brain. With alcoholics, this is what happens over the period of time. My drinking career, I called it the hypothalamus, the survival part of the brain, tells the alcoholic to drink alcohol only. That's why I can go days or weeks without food or water. But we can't, when the brain's telling us if you don't drink alcohol, and when you're drinking alcohol, you're worrying where the next bottle of alcohol and everything else around you, you're hurting, but your brain is focused on drinking alcohol. That's why it's a disease. It's taken away from you. Then the basal ganglia, our repetition strengthened confirms part of the brain with alcoholics and drug addicts, is really crazy because it's at a default to self-sabotage. So if you imagine a clock face, 12 o'clock, you might go drinking, 10 after, you can't stop, and 20 after, you try and stop. You get the kids back, half past, the wife comes back, 22, you get that new job, and at 10 to the hour, you self-sabotage. Nobody can give you a reason why they did that because it's all tucked nicely away in the brain that you can't even see it. But they wonder, why do I keep relapsing? It's because the childhood trauma, which is the gateway drug, has not been healed, and the repetition strengthened part of the brain has not been healed. So when the hypothalamus is tied to amygdala and prefrontal cortex, then you have to cover all M3 plus behavior, plus normal circumstances, plus the big childhood trauma that we all go through. People say, "I don't have childhood trauma." You do. You just forgot about it. When I did my study for a year with chimpanzees and apes at the zoo, I hated my professor for that. He sent me there for a year. It was freaking freezing. But what I learned there was unbelievable, that monkeys, apes, chimpanzees, the way they nurture their young. Well, we can't do that as human beings these days because everyone's got to work. At least one parent's got to work to pay the rent on. So the nurturing is being dropped, 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 dropped. And we came out about 5 years ago with a statement that kind of pissed the world off. And that is that anything less than nurturing as a child is child abuse. If you're not seeing your parents only once a week, there's abandonment. There's all sorts of things that lie into childhood trauma that it's not a car crash, it's not the divorce. It goes way deeper than that. So we delved more with our scientific work, and what we found was alcoholics and addicts hear things different. And we were mind blown. Let me explain. And this come from me and my brother being on the kitchen table. We were probably 8, 9, I don't know how old we were. But my mum walked in and she said to both of us, "Hey, get on off that table before your father gets in. Get down." My brother jumps down and I freeze. Why do I freeze? This is what I've heard. "Get out of that table." That's why I hear. So when I say alcoholics and I hear things different, everyone goes, "Oh my God, yes, yeah," because it's true. So when we're hearing things different with the childhood trauma that we get offended or hurt by other stuff that you don't, mix that with a normal dysfunctional family where what happens in the house becomes normal to me. I was dropped off at my mum and dad's friends every Friday overnight. And what happened as soon as my mum and dad pulled out the driveway, we played what was called a run around naked game and tickling and stuff like that. I didn't know that was child abuse. I had no idea because I thought it was it was just normal. And
Mhm.
that's where we've not gone wrong, but that's where we need to kind of look at what trauma is and what trauma isn't, especially when it comes to addiction.
Yeah, that's so interesting because when I think of my childhood, and if you were to look on my childhood on paper, you'd be like, "Oh wow, like well, what a supportive father, a supportive mother." I had 3 older brothers, all very athletic, all very competitive. And it's hard to look at like where was the trauma, and there are times where I'm like, I wonder if like there was something that happened that I just completely blacked it out because for whatever reason, whether it was too hurtful to whatever. And that was, the foundation of something that was going to rear its ugly head in my 30s with the alcohol addiction itself. But I think the only way you can actually get to those underlying issues of the foundation of the childhood trauma is by, what would you recommend? Just a therapy, inner work? Like how do you get to that? Like, how do you find it, like when it's not as easy as finding it, like, I guess not as easy. I'm not saying yours was at all, but for me, like, I don't know. So how do you get there?
You can tell people have childhood trauma by the way they behave today. So if you've never, achieved anything, if your relationships always break up, if you can't keep a steady job, all this stuff ties back to childhood trauma that's hidden in the subconscious brain. So we don't, like you said, some say you black it out. You can and do, but it's easily pulled back again. We use tools like 9D breathwork therapy, brain spotting, NLP, EMDR, psychology, behavioral science, all the tools that we use, and we change from the inside out. So once we fix these problems, and if you know what you're doing, it's not that hard. But the work that we do, nobody else is really doing right now because we were called the crazy guys 10 years ago. But we see it working every single day. Is that once you change patterns around you, if you get like an easy one, if you walk into the practice, there's like 10 people here. If all 10 people are high fiving you, you feel good, they're hugging you, all that stuff, you're going to change automatically from a depressed state into a good state. So how do we research that a group of people has an effect on one, right? And no one can't have an effect on, well, we brought 10 patients in, well, nine actors and one patient, but the patient thought everyone else was patients. But we told the actors in the waiting room that every 45 seconds a buzzer's going to go off. And we want you to do is stand up for 5 seconds and sit down. That's all. We're going to call you in one by one. So the real patient we brought in going, "Hey, come in, I'm going to give you a free session with this new thing we found." So she had no idea what was going on. Everyone was set. We had cameras in there. And the 9 people stood up. She's on her phone and she's like, everyone sits down. Second buzzer, everyone stood up. Now the phone is kind of put away and she's like looking around the room. Everyone sits down. Third buzzer, she stood up with everybody else, which was interesting. One by one, the patients got called or the actors got called as the back, and she was the only one in the waiting room. She stood up. So when you come into practice, everything here in all 5 practices around the world is kind of worked out straight away. Like if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan in Texas, and we do your research on you for brand new patients, we find out he likes Dallas Cowboys, we find out he likes Diet Coke or whatever it is. From the second you step out the car, there'll probably be a young woman there looking really nice wearing a Dallas Cowboys shirt, but not near him, just off to the side. So he sees it but he doesn't see it kind of thing. He walks in, there'll be a cowboy's clock on the side or a cowboy's leaflet, something that doesn't go, oh, but something you see. When you walk in, somebody will mention, hey, Jenny, did you watch the Cowboys last night? And he goes, oh, I watched the Cowboys last night. So by the time they get into the room with the therapist, they're ready to receive anything that you give to them because that familiarity that they have no idea. And you can change minds with that. There was a guy that come in, Texas guy, big hat, always drank Dr. Pepper. Texas drink, that's what I drink every single time. You want a Coke? Nope, don't ever do that to me again. I want Dr. Pepper, you know. So I said to him one day, can we just do a little thing with you? Like, I want to try something. He went, yeah, whatever you want. So I said, my drive's going to take you out. He's going to take you around the city, you know, show him a few things, bring you back. He said, brilliant. So what we did is when he got in the elevator, there was a poster with Diet Coke on it. When he went out, there was a discarded can in the hedge where he had to walk back with an empty Diet Coke. We took him past 3 billboards advertising Diet Coke, but we never said anything. We held a different conversation in the car. When we got back, there was a girl there with Diet Coke t-shirt on in the elevator. He walked into the office. My girl said, what do you want? Do you want Dr. Pepper? He said, oh, no, let me try one of them Diet Cokes. This is the subliminal workaround addiction that's needed. Because if I come to you, Will, in your time, go, listen, you need to stop drinking, we're not going to do that. But when you start planting subliminal, like the 9D therapy has 9 subliminal messages around a solid voice and music in the background. So you're getting subliminal 9 messages around you to recircuit the brain. If you don't repound the brain, if you don't heal the neural pathways, most people walk around about 55% of the capability because of childhood trauma. You never be good enough, blonde enough, tall enough, thin enough. That's what we get told. You know, oh, don't be silly. You can't write a book, Robert. What do you think you are? You're not an author. So I never wrote a book. But when I surrounded myself with the guys that I want to be 4 years ago and I moved to San Antonio, first 3 months I was there, I told people my dream and they all were crazy. Why haven't you wrote a book? This is disgusting. People are dying out there. So I wrote a book. So you've got to clear not only the trauma, but your current day situation. Because if you're hanging around 9 depressed people, guess what? You're going to become the 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very remarkable, that whole story that you just told me, because I'm thinking back on my own personal experiences and how similar situations put you in similar positions. And in the subliminal aspect of that story too was really interesting, like how prevalent it is in our society, in our world. Like alcohol ads are everywhere, and yeah, I think they might be on the decline a little bit with the younger generations, but I'm sure those numbers will reach back up once marijuana and alcohol, meet heads. I'm wondering, how much of that subliminal advertising that you see on, football ads, whatever, wherever it is, plays a part with the addict.
100%. I mean, you could be these days, you could be letting anything. There was Coca-Cola that tried it many years ago and they got banned and sued. And we made sure we never, or the companies made sure they never did it again. And that was to put 1 or 2 frames of a Coca-Cola bottle in a cinema in the movies. And at the halftime break they ran out of Coca-Cola because of subliminal messages. Whether they drank tea or coffee, water, they ordered a Coca-Cola at the stand outside. So there's all sorts of ways to change and break that pattern.
Yeah.
Life's about a couple of things: math, patterns, behavior. When we come down to today's function, and we get into these patterns, and the basal ganglia picks it up, and then we self-sabotage. Or the pattern is that crazy that we never make something of ourselves. And whether you want to be the best father, the millionaire, whatever it is that you want to be, or best mom, millionaire, it doesn't make any difference. You can do that when you look at the mind, which is mind over matter. So the brain's matter, mind over matter. You can program this guy every single day to make sure you perform at your best. 100%. 9,500 patients down, millions of people with my books and my TV stuff. And everybody understands that you can change. You can 100% change. You want to be a CEO? Do you know what they used to say to me years ago, Will? I used to say, you can be anybody you want to be. About 10 years ago. Well, I can't be president of the United States. They all used to say that to me. Let's forget the political views. I'm not into politics. We had a freaking business to run the country for 4 years. Don't dare tell me you can't achieve your dreams. It's not true. Somebody's put that there.
Yeah.
Somebody's put that there. And the answer to that, guys, if you don't know by now, is says who? Oh, you can't get that job. Says who?
You're right.
Who's making these rules? I don't like these rules. Who are you to tell me The amount of times I've been told you can't do that. You're from the projects, you can't do that. There's no way you can't go over to America and be on television. Are you crazy? Done it. You can't become a million. Done it. You can't done it, done it, done it.
Yeah,
Says
Rob.
who?
Rob, I haven't. I mean, I am in no position as far ahead as you are. But yeah, when I woke up from that, what do you do when you have a second chance at life, like I got, right? You, I'm not a public person. I'm not, not like that kind of person. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start a channel just to give back to the community that I was in and suffering for such a long time, and now I want to give back. And that's when I started my channel, actually, at the end of August. So yeah, but I encounter that too. Like, you can't do this. Like, aren't you going to jeopardize your teaching career if I do that? It's like, well, I'm still getting interviews. I'm still doing the things. It doesn't seem to be that big of an issue, and the vulnerability aspect of it, I feel like, is welcoming. Almost once you get out of your own way and you speak your truth and you become the vulnerable person that it takes to grow. I feel like that opens doors for you.
It does. And the way you got to think, guys, alcoholics are addicts. It's not an affliction. It's a freaking superpower. We're the only people that get two lives in one lifetime.
That's true.
Why not would you not go for it for the second? Why not would you not push that envelope so far? Why not, build this life? Because the brain does no difference between true and false. You can make it true by just acting that way and thinking that way. I mean, I thought was money's going to solve everything for me. Well, I'm like, if I just get I said to my wife when I came over it, got an American wife, I just get 10 grand in the bank. I can, just get 50 grand. I just get 100, 100 grand. 250,000, Janet, and I'm done. Not going to worry. Uh, 500,000. No, a million. No, 5 million, 10 million. It was just never enough. So what I pride myself today on having is, first of all, I don't give a shit what anybody says about me. And it's really hard to get there. People say they don't, but they do. And the second one is, and the proudest of all of this is, I have a lot of things that most people don't have, and that is enough.
Yeah,
I have
and
enough.
that's hard. That's a lot. That's really hard for people to come to that
It is.
actualization that,
Yeah.
enough is enough. And that's why, like, practicing mindfulness, meditation, that's such a key component. Breath work you mentioned earlier, like, those things are such remarkable tools to have in your arsenal when you're battling something like an addiction, or just not even addiction, just battling your life, because
Yeah.
life is hard, right? It is hard.
It is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Dr. Rob, what do you think the most counterintuitive thing that you've learned about addiction that completely changed how you help people?
I think it was that you can recover 100%. I don't care where you're from how bad you are, what alcoholic, or that you can change, and nobody can stop you when you want to do it. I mean, I've seen that constantly throughout all the patients that I've seen over the years. Once you believe, I got a lot of people that laugh on the first day. They go, "You're gonna do what?" "I'm gonna do this, 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 this with you." Yeah, bullshit. No, not bullshit. We're the only company in the world that offer a money guarantee if you relapse. So let's start. And after the first day, they go, "Holy shit." You see, a lot of people have not been validated or approved from the trauma in the past. We often get girls here who has been abused or raped from on calls or something. No one's validated that because it was all swept under the carpet. So when you validate somebody for say, yeah, uh, it happened. I validate you for that act because it happened, and I validate you and approve you on a daily basis that happened, and we need to work on that. You're 90% there with that person because no one's ever done that. We get into this routine, and we can 100% change, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. When you say that the problem isn't our drinking, it's our thinking, and I feel like we've kind of gotten to that, but what's the most radical way that you've seen someone have to change their thinking to get sober?
There's been a low. I deal with a lot of A-list celebrities, movie stars, actors, stuff like that. And one of the hardest things to do to get well is being wealthy or famous. It's hard. It's hard for them to do because first of all, we have a strict policy that I can fire you at any one time and you do not get a refund. We hold that against, and we have fired movie stars, and you can't do that to me. Watch me. I can do that. So we have a strict program that when you get off the plane, if you're a high flyer to get off the plane, that we have a 10-minute talk of this always going to go down. I don't give a shit who you are. You think it's going to change right now. I'm not a yes man. I will fire you on the spot. I couldn't, if I could mention names right now who we fired, you'd be aghast. But we don't, this is your life we're talking. If you think you're going to come here and bask in a sauna like, the wealthy treatment centers and then come out and freaking, if you think you're going to do that here, you are mistaken. I'm not impressed by anybody. I don't need your money. So don't even, well, I wear pet. I don't give a shit. What? Yeah, I don't get involved in that. I don't care. If you're not up for it, you're not up for it. We'll send you on. If you do something crazy while you're in our care, you got to text in 4 times a day is one of them. If you text in late on one time, that's 1 strike. You get 3 strikes, we're done with it. Oh, your phone number's cut off. Oh, well, you give up on it. Shut up, you. You don't know what you're talking about, guys. Give up. Give up on himself. This is life or death for people that come here. If they come here and you haven't been to treatment, we tell you to go to treatment. Go use your insurance, go to treatment. And if brilliant. And if you don't, come back to us. Well, you can't do that. I mean, you're losing money. I'm not losing shit. What I have is a reputation of being a hard ass. You either like me or you don't. But I'll tell you something. I'm the one that guarantees your parents when you come in here that you're going to be okay. So unless I can guarantee you're going to be okay, I ain't touching you with a barge pole.
Is that where that Gordon Ramsay connection came into
Yes.
play?
Yes. Well, Gordon's a friend of mine. He was best man at the wedding. He's a really nice guy. But yeah, it's like, I'm not, and outside here, I'm quiet. I sit at home. I've got 3 English bulldogs, a cat, beautiful wife. We have a lot of toys around us because, God's been good to us. But at the end of the day, this is my industry and this is my game. And if we can't get you 100% well, because I'm not going back to your parents after a month telling that you passed away in my freaking waiting room on heroin or something. I'm not doing that shit, So I'm either going to go back, you're going to work with me or you're not. And we have a bunch of people and we have a bunch of care people around us. So before somebody says, oh, what about the guys that want to come back, keep coming back? We have a bunch of people for that and therapists for that. Don't get me wrong. But for me, no, you're not playing that. I'm not playing that game with you. It's life. You see it in AA. I used to go to AA. I got sober in AA. I love AA. But you see, I've stopped going today because there are people in it. You go, oh, Rob, can you get little Johnny a coffee? He's relapsed. No, I can't get fucking Johnny a cup of coffee. Johnny, why aren't you on the same program that got me to a different place? Why do you keep doing this? There's a reason why you keep doing this. Is it the adoration? Everyone clapping. You got your silver chip again. What is a mental disease? What's going on with you? And of course, it's the lack of knowledge. I mean, like I say, I love AA, but I don't love the people in AA because they misquote the book, they misquote the guys that invented this. And step 1, we're all powerless. So it doesn't say that. Stop it. Except we admitted we were. There's no apostrophe there. We admit we were. It doesn't say where. It says were. It's a past tense. So when you start thinking, the words are very important in life. The way you word, the way you dialogue internally to yourself and what you say to each other is very, very important to success and staying clean, sober and away from depression, PTSD, because our internal dialogue will kill us. Well, you know that. You must have had the
Yeah.
same.
Oh God. Oh God. I know that. And I'm curious, and from your perspective, when you're having like a really tough day and things just aren't moving for you, and you're just kind of in a funk, how does in maybe like the allure of, maybe that's just completely gone from your world now. But for people who are still stuck, like what are some helpful tips that you could recommend to people out there who are, going through that?
Listen, if you're having a bad day, you have to ask one question. Are you really having a bad day, or is it 5 minutes that you strang on all day long? That's the first thing. The second most important thing I want to tell you guys is you can start your day anytime you want over again. I started my day at 7 p.m. sometimes when it's just got home and I realized it's not going well. Stop. Couple of breaths, start over again. You can do anything you want to do, and you really, really, for the guys that are really struggling, just before the end, we'll go over my morning routine. I have everybody I've worked with going through. It'll change your life. It'll change your internal. It'll change your brain. It'll repath. It's real easy to do, but it's all about keeping with it, staying with it. The whole getting well from mental illness is you've got to live in the now, not tomorrow or yesterday. Doesn't happen. Like, you got to live in the now. So we need to activate the conscious brain every morning away from the subconscious brain that wants to kill you and make it look like an accident. Once you get in that headspace, the noise disappears and things become clear. You
Yeah.
realize that, when you're 80 years old and you're sat in your rocking chair and you're thinking about it and you kick yourself constantly because you realize what you could have been. I don't want to be there, guys. You see, I know who I am today. I know how good I am. I know how attractive, how intelligent, how healthy, how kind. I know all of that today because I learned a lesson years ago when my parents passed away. Is I couldn't make it, but my brother and my sister uh, started it off, and then we come over and we're rummaging through everything, trying to get rid of some stuff. And we come all these photographs that my friend was going through and I was going through, and he goes, "Hey, Rob, check this out." He pulled this black and white photograph out when we were bodybuilding. And again, I won titles because I either do it or I don't. We're stood like this with just shorts on, and we're like, "Oh my God, look how thin we, oh my, look how attractive for the blonde hair." And he said, "God, Roll, those were the days." And I thought for a second, I went, "Yeah, but we didn't know those were the days back then.
Mhm.
What if today's one of those days?"
Yes.
And that's how I live my life. It's like, I don't want to get, because people are really hurtful. People always want to drag you down. They help you get to the top, then everyone wants to drag you down. It's just the way it is. But if you know your true self, if you know what you're about and you stick to that, you can't be this leader, who's sleeping with your best friend's wife. Doesn't work like that. Either God, Uncle Jimmy, universe, whatever, will pull everything away from you. He has a great way of attracting your attention real quick. And that was really hard for me, is actually doing it. When I was speaking and the girls giving me phone numbers after and stuff like that, I took them home to my wife and we laugh about them. But it's really hard because people start putting you on a pedestal. When I come off one of the shows that was 18 million viewers in California, I came off, I was buzzing, it was like fantastic. And I said, and I don't know why I said it, to my people, I take a posse with it, get me my chauffeur back to the airport. And I've never seen my wife do it. She slapped me across the face. I
Good.
said, "Don't you ever use language like that again. It's not your chauffeur. They were nice enough to supply you with a driver there and back. Don't you ever get above your station." And I always think back to that situation is, it's hard when you're struggling, and it's hard when you've kind of made it, because nobody's jealous about how you got there, but everyone's jealous about what you got.
Yes. Yeah, they don't recognize the amount of work, dedication,
No, no.
steadfastness that it undertook to get to the place that you are in your life. What's something about addiction that even you, with all your experience, all your years of knowledge, still that you still find puzzling?
Um, the thought pattern about drink. Not the
How
booze.
so?
It'll come. Wouldn't it be great to have a drink?
Mm,
And you go, where the hell did that come from? But it's always going to be there because it is embedded. So the idea is, again, is to live in the conscious brain. And there's 300 neural pathways die every day. What are you replacing them with? So I'll replace them with good ones daily. The old ones are still niggling in the background. It'll come, which anybody that's having this is fine. If you have them thought patterns, it's natural. What's not natural is to romance that idea. Once you start to romance that idea, all bets are off.
yes, yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. What's a question no interviewer has ever used about addiction that you wish they would ask? That's a big one.
Wow. Okay, let me think. Uh,
Or would you maybe let me rephrase that? What's something that you wish was brought up more in the realm of addiction and getting help with it?
Bringing it out of the closet, the notoriety, they're bringing it out into the open, which we have done over the last 5 or 6 years. Because now it's still a dirty disease. Nobody wants to talk about it. I wish people will start talking more and more, like me and guess millions of other people out there, of bringing it to the table as not a dirty secret or an affliction, but something that's happened to us in our childhood that's made us act this way. And of course, alcoholism in the family. You're born alcoholic, so it would be definitely that. Is let's shout from the mountains, guys. And it's not what Again, the amount of people that listeners and viewers right now look up to, if they're famous, they've probably been through some shit that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of movie stars, and I ask every single one of them, "Would you come out and say something?" They'll go, "No, I can't. It's more than my career's worth."
Without naming names, like what are some of the biggest or the most prevalent issues that they suffer with when it comes to addiction as opposed to just regular people? I mean, everyone's a person, but
Yeah, it's that entitlement. That's all it is.
Mhm.
And what's the crazy thing about it is we have a pre-talk. We picked a guy from LA jail once, went down to LA jail. We picked this guy up. Uh, his acting career has took a dive because of his drinking and using. They're going to throw him in jail. Um, and we went down to the court, and we didn't know who he was until he come into the back room and spoke to us with his attorneys. So we handcuffed him, and he's saying, "You don't know who I am. We know who you are. You either shut your mouth, get on the plane, and we'll drive home, or you go in jail. I don't give a shit which one it is." You say, "You're under the impression that I need your work or your money." That ain't the fucking case. Let's get that down. So we brought it back, and we worked with him, and he took to it. He was the kindest man. We've had some of the best rappers in the world. Well, we used to have a ranch in Dallas where people would come one at a time. It was very exclusive. And the biggest rapper in the world at the time came over, and he was to my wife and stuff. Yes, man. No, man. Never raised his voice. Really polite. Because that you need to find where that real person is, not where all the glitz and the noise and the cameras are. Where's that person that goes home at nighttime on his own, gets into bed in the dark? That person we need to find. And the quicker we do, the better.
Mm.
And like I say, it's amazing how desperate they get, but they've tried 1,000 times. There was one in, I won't mention the treatment center. They were struggling drugs in, they were having sex in there, and they came towards me. It's like, yeah, none of that shit's going to happen here. He's like, yeah, but we've paid X, X, X. And again, I don't give a shit how much you pay. That's not my deal. And you
Yeah.
basically got to do it our way, or you don't.
I mean, it raises that interesting question of, can someone get sober via force, or does it have to come within them finally giving up and saying, not giving up, giving in to the idea of, okay, I need to address this. I need help. I want help. It's not someone else is forcing it upon me. And how much does that come into your life?
Well, I
Going
think
on?
you have to be ready to a certain point. I don't think you just go in and do it. But what we found today with the neuroscience is when somebody comes there and doesn't want to do it because the patients, you can excite them about the journey. You can subliminally work with them, and they go, "Oh well, yeah, I might as well try it. This is cool." Because when they come here, they expect this stuffy doctor in like a tie and stuff, and they come in a high five and get the fucking out of the room with you, and they go, "What? Oh my god!" It's little stuff like that we do. So you can excite someone about recovery who never was. There was a mum that was bringing her son, 22 years old, real hard addict, and we'd explained everything. And on the way here, on the way to the office, he called the office and said, "I want to speak to Dr. Robb," and I got on the phone and said, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? Well, I want to know how the hell are you going to cure me? You said you could cure me. Oh, and you said this and you said that. Let me stop you right there. You can either come or go home. In actual fact, I don't give a shit whether you come on board or not.
Mhm.
But what I do give a shit about is if you do come on board, we're going to have fun. We're going to do this thing. We're going to have crazy days. We're going to have fun days, and I'm going to get you through it. Are you in or are you out?" Now, that alone has changed his mind. So we're not all brutal. If you don't want to go away, there are certain things that we want you to come on board, and we'll use these subliminal messages, and we'll use being a badass or stuff like that, because when somebody comes in, we do research. So we look at mom and dad's bringing Sonny. Okay, we do research, Facebook or whatever, find out he likes Nike shoes, Nike sneakers. So I'll go out and buy Nike sneakers for when he comes in. So when he comes in, we're on the same level straight away. But, the average person, I wasn't ready until I was ready, Will, and the same for you.
Mm.
So if you're just not going to make an attempt to come into the office, there's nothing I can do for you. And wives call in the office all the time. My husband doesn't want help. What can I do? And the answer is, do you have children? Yes. Get the children out of the house and you with them as well. If they've been this state farm, you're trying to get sober and sober and they keep relapsing, it will get worse.
Yes, it will.
I stabbed my wife 3 times one night.
Yeah.
She won't let me finish my bottle of vodka. What? I swore I never did it. I swore I never did. That's what happens, guys.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's just doing the same thing over and over, right? It's the definition of insanity. That was my life. I would get caught drinking, upset my wife, cry, everything, and then rinse and repeat because I would be grieving that the remorseful feeling of her of hurting her feelings and letting her down and not being available, hiding alcohol everywhere, and then it was just a chaotic mess of just self, deprecating everything. My life was just a complete mess. So I want to be mindful of the time here. I know how precious your time is, Dr. Rob. So
No, we'll stay off the rest of the day. Come on, let's do it.
yeah, let's do it. All right. Well, my next question I wanted to ask you was, what would you want someone who's listening, watching this right now, to who's afraid to admit that they need help, to know?
I need you guys to start dialogue with your best friend, with your girlfriend, wife, or husband, or whatever it is. I want you to intimately have that conversation and be vulnerable. You don't have to be vulnerable in front of people. You don't have to go to meetings or church if you don't want to. You don't have to do nothing, but be vulnerable with one person. And if the spouse, wants some advice as well, be kind, be understanding to a certain point. So you can either enable or you can either help to a certain point. But I'm telling you now, guys, everybody that's come through addiction and alcoholism has a great second life, and they're meant to be here to live that second life. And it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's 100% guaranteed, man. You've got to be
Yeah.
careful what you're listening to, where you're getting your information and what's the source around that information. So, if you've got a hater on Facebook, for instance, and he's like, yeah, da, 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 and you're tracing, and he's living in a one-bedroom apartment that's without, broken down, and he's not got anything, and missus is throwing him out, the kids never see, and then you're not going to take advice from that guy because the source isn't good, you know? And of course, you can always call here. We have my wife and two of her assistants. They have all day long, and all they do is they have a laugh in the office, and they answer calls for distraught wives and parents and stuff like that. And they'll spend all day if they need to on the phone with you. It's not going to cost you a dime, because
Yeah.
what I went through with my parents is like parents don't know, and they're being told all sorts of shit. Uh, if a patient comes on and his wife doesn't come on as well, then we won't take the patient.
Yeah.
Family dysfunction ties to the family system, and we get the wife all the time. Well, it's not nothing to do with me. It's not my problem. His problem. Okay, Mrs. Smith, can you explain this to me, please? Why do you allow your husband to come on 2 or 3 times a week, get into a physical fight with you in front of your children? Why do you? And the tears start. It's like when we did our testing on PTSD, we did testing from guys coming back from Afghanistan. Thank you for your service, guys. And a woman living in a violent, alcoholic, dysfunctional household. And the signs and the pain and the trauma from that was exactly the same from the wife to the soldier.
Wow.
If you're going through this, if you're in this situation, you're suffering from PTSD, you'll walk away with PTSD, and that will affect you for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
It really will. And not only that, it will affect your kids.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
If a young girl grows up in a house that's dysfunctional, dad comes home, did what I just said, then when she leaves the house, energy will attract the same guy that does the same to her, to the extent that if she finds a good guy, she'll self-sabotage that relationship because it doesn't feel normal.
The dynamics of relationships when it comes to addiction and abuse and things like that is fascinating to me. It's tragic, but it's also fascinating in a lot of ways. The interpersonal relationships of addiction and people together. But um, Dr. Rob, like I said, I don't want to take too much of your time, and there's a million more questions that I would like to ask you. But um, before for any of that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And if people are looking out to gather support, reach out to you. Where can people find you?
If you're just listening and not watching, I spell my name with two B's, ROBBKELY.com is the website. Dr. Robb Kelly in any search engine. We're on all the platforms. Um, just because he's well Gordon and he's amazing. Um, I have a book out there called The Last Thing My Daughter Said to Me, Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. After 30 years of estrangement, we got back together 4 years ago. She introduced me to my 3-month-old granddaughter, and she's my lead therapist in my Manchester office. So don't go and buy it on Amazon. The first 5 people that message me or will to say you listen to the show, I'm gonna send you a free book. I'm gonna pay for the shipping. I'm gonna sign it personally to you on one condition: A, you mention the show, and B, you give it to somebody else when you're done with it.
All right, you heard it here, folks. You heard it
Oh,
here, folks.
let me give this real quick. I promise I'll give you something at the end that people can change their lives from tomorrow. One of the reasons why nobody's woke up laughing ever in the world is lack of oxygen. Now, the subconscious brain thrives on hypoxic situations. So the subconscious brain between the hours of 2 and 5 in the morning on a normal circadian sleep pattern is where our body is at its most repair and oxygen is low. So when we wake up, the subconscious brain wakes us up. This is the guy who wants to kill you, make you look like an accident. Okay. The conscious brain thrives on oxygen. So when you get up in the morning tomorrow, guys, I want you to do this. Hold on to the bed or sit down. I want you to do 3 things. First of all, let's get the oxygen around our body. Let's ignite that oxygen around our body. It's amazing. I want you to take 20 exaggerated breaths in and out first thing in the morning. Hold on. 20 of those. Let's flood the body with oxygen. Now, what happens? First of all, you're going to feel good. Like, you don't feel good for going to the gym for lifting weights. It's this between the set. That's why you feel good, because you're getting the oxygen in. We only breathe 45% of our lung capacity. So get the oxygen in and out. Start feeling good, okay? Conscious brain is there. Subconscious brain is gone for the 24 hours. Parts of the brain reset with 24 hours. It's not an AA thing. Goes way before that, okay? So while this guy's thriving today, living in the now, this guy is still going to wake you up tomorrow morning. So with conscious, the brain up, we're ready to go. We're alert. Walk into the bathroom. If you brush your teeth with your right hand, alternate week for a month. And then what I want to do after that, so 3 things. First of all, breath, teeth, and then mirror work. I want you to stand in front of the mirror and say, I love you 10 times. We're storing, remember, 300 neural pathways die every day. So because of the trauma, we're storing, I love you, I love you. But there is a little key here to doing it. Stand 6 feet away from the mirror. When we stand 6 feet away from the mirror, all our blemishes disappear. When we get close to the mirror, guys are shaving or women are putting the makeup on, we see all our blemishes. That's how we think people see us. When's the last time you went to work? Hey, Johnny, good to we don't do that. So stand away and do them 3 things and your life will change from tomorrow. I guarantee it'll change. It has to change. You go, well, that might not work. No, you're taking huge amounts of oxygen inside your body. It's gonna work. It's like there's no such thing. It's like having cereal with no milk. It's gonna work.
And
You know, end of story.
It
You know,
feels
they
weird
do
at
the
first.
mirror work, you do the teeth work, and then you're out and compliment 3 people every day.
Yeah.
Compliment them, man. And I wanna, this is my last one. Guy walks to the Golden Gate Bridge and throws himself off and commits suicide. When the police pull him out of the water, they find ID, they go back to his apartment. They're looking for next of kin. What they find is a letter on the kitchen table. And it read, I'm going to walk to the Golden Gate Bridge, which was an hour, by the way. I'm going to stand on the edge, I'm going to throw myself off and commit suicide. Unless on the way there, somebody smiles at me, says good morning, nods at me, ways, anything like that. So I'm being seen. I'll stop and I'll go back to the apartment and I'll try again tomorrow. Question. How many people have you walked past today that's heading to the Golden Gate Bridge? We just never know.
Yeah, that's so true. I've seen that documentary. It's remarkable how just so personal those stories are. I think he like grabbed some Skittles too or something like that on the way. I remember something
Yeah.
crazy like that.
It
But
was
yeah.
on my podcast. It was a great guy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fascinating,
so,
man. Fascinating, man.
Yeah.
Well, that is some great advice, everybody. So please use those steps. I couldn't agree with more with everything you just said, Dr. Robb. So thank you for enlightening us on that. Thank you again, Robb, Dr. Robb, for coming on. I really do appreciate your time. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this one because it was just phenomenal. So thank you again for coming on and spending some time with us. And everybody out there, I hope you got as much out of this episode as I did, and be on the lookout for many, many more episodes coming soon. Thank you very much, Dr. Robb.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, guys.